looks like I'm back with part 15. And now I'm entering Nissan. I guess they're under attack by Ava. They said the city's awfully quiet. Titan says there's no townspeople in sight, but Shakan's guards are everywhere. Ellie says she heard there's a hidden shelter and wonders if they're alright. Ellie says, yeah, I think I heard Bart say something about that. Faye says, you think the townspeople went there? Faye says, how is it on your side? Sigurd says, the side roads are also quiet. Faye says, I see, what do we do now? Faye says he can't tell what their next move might be. But he can't just leave considering the residents were placed in danger because of that treasure. He says, okay, agreed, but by the way, is Margie doing alright? Sigurd says, about that. The young master is quite concerned that Marguerite is tagged along. Satan says it's understandable. After hearing Shakan has his hands on Nissan, there's no way she would just sit around and do nothing. Sigurd says, yes, but you know him. Well, I should get going. We'll coordinate our moves according to yours and try to break through the rear path. Sigurd wants to break through your rear path. Sounds filthy. Ellie says, I hope it goes okay. Faye says, yeah. Titan says, but now that we have heard and seen so many things up until now, we should realize that Shakan's existence is no longer just the young one's problem. If we don't stop him, the next time it may be us who faces misfortune. Let's brace ourselves and help these people out. Faye says, okay then, let's go. And I guess they just jump down and start attacking people. Cool. My. I think there's some new moves I can learn now that I'm out of Shiva. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Oh, he's already got one of them, dang. He's a speedy learner. Ooh. My. Yo. Guess I can't jump off that balcony. I think Satan's already got all his, that's nice. We can't just leave. Maybe I gotta, like, go through all the houses, I don't know. Looks like we cleaned up all the soldiers. Well, that's good. With the help of Faye and his colleagues, Nissan was freed from Shakan's army. However, the Fatima Jasper and the legendary treasures of the Ava royal family are still in danger. Now he's gonna play his last card, and Shakan's true intentions will be brought to light. Sigurd says there's no signs of the residents yet. Margie says, "Are you okay, sister? Are you wounded?" The sister says, "I'm fine." Marguerite and Bartholomew, "I'm sorry." Sigurd says he took troops and searched the area but cannot find anyone. Bart says, "Really?" Sister Agnes says, "Earlier, after everyone came out, over half the residents fled from Nissan. After that, Shakan's position in the country was compromised, so he didn't care about his reputation anymore and attacked." Satan says, "I see. A last desperate plan to reverse the situation." Bart says, "Sister, I assume the people remaining in the town are..." Sister Agnes says, "Yes, hiding in the mausoleum." Faye says, "Mausoleum? Hiding in a grave?" Margie says, "The great mothers and kings of Ava of old are revered there." Bart says it's not just a regular grave. Sister Agnes says, "Bartholomew, about that." And then she says, "Shakan and the Fatima Jasper, he's after the Fatima treasure." Fatima, anyway. He says, "Treasure, if he wants that, why is he attacking here?" Bart says, "Huh?" Bart says the treasure's actually in the mausoleum. There was even Father's will there, but I didn't tell anyone. Faye says, "Treasure? You mean that thing in the picture scrolls you showed me earlier?" Bart says, "Yes. If you follow that legend, you're supposed to get your hands on some great power." Sigurd says, "We must stop them somehow." Bart says, "There's no problem. The Jasper is..." Agnes cuts off the king and says they plan to use the former mother's retinas. Bart says, "What?" Agnes says, "Remove the deceased mother's retina and break the seal." Bart says, "Use the body of Margie's mother?" Margie says, "Mom's." Sister Agnes says, "I'm sorry, they used innocent citizens and sect followers as a shield. There was no other way. The truth we heard previously from Margie about the Jasper's true form and how it's used, they know now. I'm truly sorry." Bart says, "Well, I don't blame you. They had hostages." Satan says, "Wait a moment. Retinas, what are you speaking of?" Bart says, "The Fatima Jasper is the topaz blue pupils of the Fatima dynasty. In other words, our retinal pattern. The doors to the treasure are opened by that, or so it is said." Bart says, "However, no one's ever used it. It's not supposed to be used for minor conflicts. The doors are to be opened only when the kingdom is truly in danger. So neither I, nor my father, nor grandfather, nor great-grandfather had ever used it. Citan says, so that is the true form of the Jasper. Bart says, damn. That old coot, he wants to profane a holy person's corpse? That's unthinkable. Citan says, it's a closely guarded secret, but the Ethos people are not holy men. They simply supervise. Faye says, yes, of course, they wouldn't feel anything. Let's go, Bart, before the mausoleum is trashed. Bart says, alright. Sigurd says, young master, I have a proposal. Bart says, what is it, Sig? Sigurd says, currently Ava is in confusion with Shakan running amok. It should be very easy to bring down the center with no Gebler units around. It'll be the best time to make our return to the capital. Citan says, that's a good idea. Shakan is most likely thinking of the Fatima Jasper as his last card. While we prevent the young one from handing over the treasure to Shakan, a separate force will take back the capital. Then he will have nowhere else to go. Bart says, I got it, sounds good. We can pay everything back in one shot. Bart says, let's split up. I'll go to the mausoleum, I'll take Faye and ... might as well take Ellie. Ellie says, fine, I'll go. Bart says, alright, that decides it. Everyone else cooperate with Sig. Margie says, hold on, I'm going too. Bart says, huh? You don't have to. Oh yeah, sorry Margie, come along with us. Bart says, alright, I'm counting on all of you. He's a dead man the next time I see him. Faye says, let's get going. Where's this mausoleum? Bart says there's an entrance at the rear of the cathedral. He says, first of all, we have to get on the road that runs around this town and go in through the back. Ellie says, do we have to walk that far? Bart says the distance isn't that far, but I don't know how much more there is to go from there. Faye says, you haven't been inside there before yourself? Bart says, yeah, this is my first time to go beyond the mausoleum. Margie says the place is all sealed up, even I haven't been in it. Bart continues, so neither Margie nor I know much about it. Sig and them have already taken off, so we won't be able to return to the ship for a while. For now, we're just going to have to work this out on our own. Margie says, alright then, I'm going to go on ahead and wait for you at the entrance. Bart says we'll come once we finish our preparations, so could you wait for us at the entrance until then? Margie says okay. Bart says, alright, let's get prepped. Faye says, but by the looks of it, I don't think we'll be able to find the tool lady. Bart says, why don't we just leave the necessary money behind then? It might not be good manners, but I'm sure they'll forgive us. It's like the game knows people don't like to use Bart. Who knows? Well, let's go find that room where I can buy stuff. Since I didn't have time to unequip Citan. This is why I normally read ahead, but I forgot to this time. Is that not a counter? Whatever. Oh boy. They can't just put the freaking place right in the front near the town gate, where it would make sense. Faye says, no one's around, I guess we'll just leave the money here. Alright. it's time to leave and go find Margie. Bart says, thanks for waiting. Margie says, alright, let's go in. Faye says, I didn't know there was a hidden a hidden path behind the cathedral. Bart says, yeah, it's usually closed off. Faye says, the mausoleum's in there? Bart says, yeah. If the city's in danger, the people are supposed to take refuge in here. Alrighty. Looks like we're gonna go down a ton of stairs. Faye says, how far does this go? Bart says, hang in there, just a little more. Bart says, we're here, despite never having been here before. Faye says, what's gonna happen? Bart says, hey now, don't rush me. Faye says, you haven't done anything. And then Ellie says, you haven't forgotten what we need to do, have you? Bart says, lay off and shut up. It's been a while, so don't blame me. I really forgot. Margie says, you want me to open it? Bart says, please. Bart says, oh yeah, that's it. That's where I thought it was. As everyone shakes their head at him because he's full of shit. Faye says, is everything gonna be okay? I'm beginning to have my doubts. And it appears we have opened this place up. If memory serves, this is a relatively longer dungeon. Anyway. They walk in and there's already Ava guards inside. Bart's like, how did they already get in here? Obviously, they exhumed a corpse and used her retinas to get in. Don't know why they're surprised, when they literally already knew this information. Anyway, time to kill some naughty people. Wow, they just totally killed someone already. Jesus Christ. Okay. A bunch of the residents from Nissan are there. They say, Laddie, hey, it's Bart. Marguerite's there too. Hey everyone, it's okay. Bart says, the casket, is Margie's mother safe? Margie says, it's fine, she hasn't been touched. How did they get in there then? Whatever. Bart says, okay, what a relief. Bart asks, is everyone okay? Everyone says yes. Bart says, Shakan, where did he go? The villagers say, Shakan, I haven't seen him. The only people that came here were those soldiers, and they threatened us to stay quiet. I'm sorry, if only I'd been braver. Bart says, he isn't here yet, that's odd. Someone else says, what's happening to the town? Bart says, I took care of upstairs, it's okay to go back. Someone says, is that true? Another one says, Bartholomew, you're indeed powerful. I've seen you come and go from time to time, and I didn't think much of it. Exactly who are you? Bart says, everyone, I need your attention. My friends are currently headed for Bledovik. They're on a mission to take down Shakan from his seat of power. There's a need to rebuild this country from scratch. I've inherited that task from our late king. If all goes well, we'll soon be able to make that a reality. Please believe me and wait for me. A townsperson says, you're gonna defeat Shakan? And then they're kind of putting it together that he's a descendant of the king. So they're saying, the town's okay, let's go back up. Collect your belongings. Laddie, be careful out there. I know you'll make it okay. And when you do, you'll have to promise that you'll come out and announce who you are. I want to see you stand on the terrace of Castle Fatima proudly. You gotta win, lad. You've got my support, says the townspeople. Bart says, I don't know what happened or made me say the things I did. It wasn't like me to say that stuff. Margie says, you could have just told them that you're the prince. Bart says, I can't do that yet. I need to fulfill my father's last request first. Alrighty, I gotta cure Ellie since she's dead. Already regretting not bringing sight into this, but whatever. Looks like I can't go that way. Of course, they just put like random garbage everywhere to like box me in. Faye says it's awfully dark in here. Bart says they probably shut the power down. Margie says, we use this lower area as a mausoleum. It always has minimal power. The sisters are not even allowed in here. Ellie says it smells like mold. Bart says, that's obvious, there's no one here. Bart says, let's move on, we gotta get the treasure before Shakan gets it. Faye says, this is the same angel statue at the cathedral. Bart says, this is the door that connects to the great royal treasure. Bart says, it's time for the Fatima Jasper to do its thing. Oh yeah, one of mine's closed. Margie says, I'm here. So they both look in there. And it opens the door. And Faye says the Fatima Jasper. Bart says, yeah, Shakan mistook it for a royal pendant. Bart says, that made it easier for us, so I just kept my mouth shut about the matter. Faye says, what's up ahead? Margie says, the central core of the fortress. It's been said that if we shine that mysterious light across our eyes, the fortress will rise to the surface. They say this was built before the country of Ava was founded. Are you ready to go? Everybody appears ready, and nobody says anything. Okie dokie. I guess we're gonna wander around this labyrinth now. I walk into a room and Bart says, there sure are a lot of gauges and meters in here. Margie says, I wonder which is more impressive, the pilot room on your ship, or the one in here? Bart says, my ship, of course. Bart says, well, since they are our ancestors, I guess this one's better. And then he continues, and you, quit asking mean questions like that anyway. It's not called a pilot's room, it's the bridge, got it? Margie says, does it really matter? Yeah, exactly. I received a desert worm, whatever that is. I'm gonna assume it's Bart's whip. That was a good assumption, it was correct. Alrighty, I don't see anything else in here. It'd be great if the game would stop, like, assuming that I want my directions changed, because I don't. This, I don't know. Energy block. There are just doors everywhere. This appears to be like a power plant or something. I have no idea. There's no enemies in here, which is kind of like boring. I found a death blower, apparently. And another lock. Alrighty. Heart says, here's another lock. Margie says, let's try it out. Oh god. I don't know if it opened or what. Maybe it's because the power's off. I have no idea. Whatever. I'm just gonna get like really lost and look around or something. Why do all things lead back to this? Oh boy. This is super obnoxious. I have no clue what's going on here. Like still in this stupid place? Okay, I've unwittingly walked back to the same room. Maybe I have to do something down here first. Who even knows? Am I like leaving? I'm so confused. This place is way too large. just appears that all these rooms are the same room. Oh my god. Apparently I accidentally found the right place to go. That's fine. Ellie says, for being in storage for so long, this thing's in great condition. Faye says, it looks like Bart's gear. Bart says, now that you mention it, well, if you trace my gear's history, it was originally made in Ava and I customized it. Wouldn't be surprising if there was some connection. Bart says, looks like there's no power here except for emergency lights. Faye says, the gear too. The drive unit's been sealed. Bart says, there might be something around here. Bart says, something's written here. Does anyone have a light? He says there's an inscription. It's in Old Fatima. Margie says, what does it say? And Bart says, peace to all those who come here. Fearing great calamity, we sealed this legacy entrusting its fate to you. Apparently reading that turned all the lights on. Bart says, this should work. Faye says, how do I get it out? Faye says, you said it would appear above if it read the eyes? I don't know. I'm guessing this is bad translation. Now he says, you think you can move this building? Bart says, no. That last room looked like a bridge. Let's check it out. Bart says, Father, looks like we're gonna have to move this. Sorry, but I'll have to borrow it. Are they gonna make me walk back? Of course. They're like, how can we make this annoying maze even more annoying? Alrighty. Okay. And I am now on the bridge, where randomly some townspeople are hanging out. Bart's glad that that person is okay. Now he asks what he's doing there. He says, when I returned to town, I heard you were in the mausoleum. I thought to myself, something's going on. I couldn't just stand there, so I came here. Bart says, it's dangerous. You should go back. This guy says, I've come this far, I'm not going back, I'm gonna stay here and help you. I assume he's just like an item merchant or something. Doesn't look like he's got anything new. Alright, so what do I do? I'm lost. Let's see. Oh, okay. It's gonna make me walk all the way back there for no reason. Awesome. This is one way to add a bunch of hours to a game for no reason. I swear I walked all the way around and found nothing. Okay. Seriously, what the hell am I supposed to do? Oh boy, I'm just gonna have to read this garbage. No idea. Maybe I'll just try to leave, since nothing seems to work. Yeah, that's not doing anything either. Okay, do I push buttons in this bridge? Oh, okay. For the love of fuck. Bart says, alright, I know I can do it. Which unearths a gigantic UFO. Bart says, we've surfaced. Next, open the sky dome. Bart says, huh? Faye says, what's up? Bart says, it's already moving. Ellie says, you moved it? Bart says, no. Bart says, it must be something I accidentally pushed. And it fires some gigantic enemy energy laser. Bart says, this is the way. Oh, really? What are you talking about? Quit fooling, says Faye. What did you just press? Bart says, I wouldn't say it was a complete lack of success, but it'll do for now. Ellie says, a really bright light shot out. Did you just do something you shouldn't have? Bart says, don't worry, I've never fouled things up yet, have I? Bart says, how about it, ladies and gentlemen, behold. 'Tis that not Babel Tower over yonder. Bart says, well, it is way cool. It floats from the Fatima Jasper. I call it Fort Jasper, and you'll be able to see it from far off. I'm sure the last beam cannon could reach it. Bart says, I guess I wanted to show you its greatness. Have you ever seen such a cannon? And don't mix it up with Vanderkamp's pea shooter. This one's many more times powerful and refined. That's why the ancestors used it to guard the treasure. And he's just rambling some bullshit. Bart says, let's go get the treasure and go home. First, we have to open the door in the dome. I don't think the switch on this control panel will do, though. Bart says, over there. Faye says, didn't you say you hit the wrong button earlier? Bart says, they all look alike. Well, let's just start hitting some buttons. Faye says, that's probably not safe. Anyway, he opens up the sky dome and says, let's hurry up and get the treasure outside. Someone says, thank you for unlocking the seal in the background. Bart identifies the voice as Shakan. Then a ton of enemy gears flood the fortress. Bart says, damn you, was this a setup? Shakan says yes. Shakan says, you don't really believe the door would open up for just anyone. I simply leaked information and waited for you to arrive. Bart says, that's why I haven't noticed your stench for a while. Shakan says, knowing your impulsive nature, I knew you would come, but I never thought you'd go so far as to breaking the seal. Bart says, son of a, making a fool out of me? Shakan says, my soldiers have already secured this area. If you don't like it, come here and get some, and then laughs. Okie dokie. Well, at least I can do something now. This is getting kind of old, running around in this maze. I guess Faye learned a skill. What's his next one? We learned Fuki. Now I need triangle, triangle, square, X. Okie dokie. Works for me. Are they just gonna kill Ellie every single time? Fucking assholes. Oh my god. Super annoying. I don't know why they get to go every 2 seconds, but whatever. Okay, I think that's the exit. I don't know why they just kill her in one hit every time, but they do. I think they're like using stop magic on me or something. Let's try this. I guess maybe Ellie doesn't have any equipment. That would be, you know, a reason. So let's get that fixed. Hopefully that fixes that. Alright, whatever. Where am I supposed to go now? Oh my god. Seriously? Bart says, one after the other. Don't these guys give up? Shakan says, most impressive, Prince Bartholomew, but you'll go no further. Bart says, the central area's gone. What can you do now? How about killing yourself honorably? What a fitting death for a clergyman. Shakan says, there's much more to the ethos than you would know. We're not a single unit. We each have an agenda. We have no need to admit defeat just because the central area's gone. I have my own motives. And it is for them that I used Ava and Gebler. Now the treasure's mine. I suggest you retreat. Bart says, crap. Margie takes off down the hall. Shakan says, after her. Shakan says, you're actually trying to protect the Omnigear. What do you think one little girl can do? As they say, out of the frying pan and into the fire, idiot. Shakan continues, I'm gonna take care of this once and for all. That detestable girl has made a fool out of me for the last time. I'll send her and everything with her to the depths of hell. Bart says, damn it, get the hell out of my way. Somebody else says, you've gone far enough. It appears it's Sigurd and Seitan. Bart says, what are you doing here? Ellie says, Seitan. Sigurd says, I left Mazen in charge of the capital. I was worried, so I returned. Sigurd says, Shakan, it's only a matter of time until Bledavik returns to us. At this point, you have nowhere to go. Shakan says, it's not over yet. I've still got Margie. For now, she'll once again be my hostage until I get that Omnigear. Bart says, wait. Bart says, damn, it won't lock, and it won't open, it's locked from the inside. Bart says, I only have one Jasper. Sigurd says, relax, young master. Bart says, Sig, what should I do? Sigurd says, pass the light through your good eye, I'll do the other half. Bart says, what do you mean? And Sigurd says, just do it. The door opens, implying that Sigurd is also royalty. Bart asks him why it works. Sigurd says, we're running out of time, we must return to Marguerite at once. Bart screams, Margie, where are you? Shakan says, what's taking so long? Someone in the background says, it's an Omnigear. Shakan says, she's just a child, what can she do? Hurry up and get her. Bart says, Margie's in there. Faye says, let's go. Bart says, Margie, is that you moving it? Bart says, crap, as he's shot by Shakan's goons. Well, shot at by them, not physically shot. Bart enters the gear and says, are you okay, to Margie. Margie says, I got shot, looks like I'm causing you trouble. Bart says, stupid, why'd you put yourself in danger? Margie says, it wasn't much, I just thought this isn't the least I could do for you. Bart says, dumb, stupid, you're the biggest fool. Margie says, haha. Bart says, can you move? Margie says, I guess. Shakan says, minor damage can be repaired. Aim for the cockpit. Directing one of his gears to attack. Bart says, damn it, it's too dangerous to go outside. Can you hold on? Margie says, don't worry about me. Bart says, damn, gets in the cockpit and realizes that it's not the same control schematics as his previous gear. He says, what the hell? There's no control stick. How am I gonna move this thing? A voice from outside screams, are you okay, young master? Bart says, Sig, do you know how to operate this thing? Sigurd says, what do you mean? Bart says, there's no controls, what do I do? The Omnigear is attacked, and then Bart stands up. Shakan says, impudent little brat. Bart's wondering how it moved. And then Sigurd from outside is screaming, you must think your movements. Bart says, oh no, I guess Seitan said that. Seitan says, the Omnigear doesn't function by mechanical controls, but mental ones. Remember how Ellie and the Omnigear and Shivat responded? Bart says, but... Seitan says, Margie probably moved it through the same means. Young one, try and envision the gear moving. Then the gear should react to the image in your head. Bart says, now that I know, here it goes. Shakan says, damn you. Faye says, let's go. And now we are fighting some E-tones. Rather, Neo-E-tones. Shakan says, I almost had it. And Bart says, you're not getting away. Shakan's gear flies out on the top. Bart says, you're not going anywhere. Seitan says, please wait. Is Margie gonna be alright? Bart says, "Oh yeah. Hey Margie, are you okay? Margie, wake up." Citan says, "Fortunately the bullet passed through. I will apply first aid. Later when we return to the city, we should have it looked over thoroughly." Bart says, "Good, I'm glad. When she passed out, I thought the worst." Margie says, Bart says, "How are you feeling?" Margie says, "Okay. You know, when I passed out, I still heard your voice. For some strange reason, your cries reached me. That's why I thought I had to help you." Bart says, "Oh, you were fighting together. We were fighting together, weren't we? You protected me." Bart says, "But is this really the legendary gear in the scroll of our founding nation?" Bart says, "The way it handles, it feels just like my Brigandier, except maybe it's a little more powerful." Citan says, "Perhaps the controls output and weapons are similar and adjust to the strength of the pilot's mental waves." Citan says, "If so, the pilot must be skilled at mentally merging with the gear to gain its true power. Marguerite was able to move it through her strong desire to help you. It was her strength that moved it." Bart says, "Meaning I'd have to get used to it?" Citan says, "That would be the case." Bart says, "I already went through a lot of trouble to get it." Citan says, "Don't be discouraged. Now that we know that these Omnigears were used in the battle between the land and Solaris, even now the Ethos and Solaris are seeking them. At least this one did not fall into their hands. Eventually you'll be able to unleash its power. Let us hope you use it for the right reasons." Alrighty. Bart says, "No activities for you. You'll have to settle down for a while." Margie says, "What do you mean?" Bart says, "Don't get so excited," and then laughs. Margie says, "You're a meanie." Someone calls for Sigurd. Sigurd says, "Please tell Mason we'll be here a while longer." Sigurd says, "We've heard from our units in Bledavik. Things are unfolding smoothly. They've entered the castle. They're investigating Shakan's private room on the top floor of the castle. One more thing. Yggdrasil is on station nearby and has picked up several gears on radar." Bart says, "Shakan." Sigurd says, "Most likely, but those gears went to the capital, then turned and came back towards us." Faye says he saw things weren't looking too good and ran away. Bart says, "Yeah, but it sounds like he's coming back here." Faye says, "What's here?" Sigurd says, "About that, the info from the capital. Isn't there a gate in the area?" Faye says, "A gate?" Citan says, "Where?" Sigurd says, "West of Nissan." Sigurd says, "Young master, do you know the big cave over there?" Bart says, "On the western continent, it's near the ocean. If I remember, it's big enough for a gear to walk in." Sigurd says, "Yes, there. They found evidence that there is a large building inside that cave." Faye says, "Shakan is heading for there." "What's he doing?" Bart says, "I guess we'll have to go and see." Faye says, "Okay." Sigurd says, "I'll wait here for info from the capital." Citan says, "A gate. Of course I would like to actually see it, but this time I'll pass. There are 2 more left, and besides, just in case things don't go well, it might be better if we stay here and protect Marguerite." Bart says, "Got it. I'll leave the rest to you." Alrighty. I guess it's time to go to that gate. Oh. Isn't that where that thing was before? I don't know. Oh boy. Well, there's the cave. Bart says, "What the heck? That hole wasn't there last time." And Faye says these gears are survivors from the last battle, and we get into a fight. Faye says, "It seemed like they're waiting for us. Ellie says, I wonder if we'd come first, if we'd have stepped on it. Bart says, regardless, we gotta go on. It's gonna be an internal embarrassment if we let him get away. Okie dokie. Well, this place seems pretty linear, so that's interesting. Faye says, this is the gate generator. Bart says, Punk, not only was he sitting on the Ava throne, he also controlled this. Shakan says, exactly. To think you knew about the existence of the gate. Very interesting. Shakan says the gate which divided Solaris from the Earth was under the supervision of the Ethos. Shakan says in the beginning it was supervised without any true knowledge of what it did. However, over the years, the Ethos did their own experiments to reveal its true nature. Shakan says they learned how to use it. And he continues, for the sake of freeing ourselves from Solaris, we discovered a new way of using it. Shakan attaches himself to that gate and starts absorbing energy from it. Bart says, this was your original intention. Faye says he probably entered through this cavern, he just wanted the energy from the gate generator. Ellie says, something's not right. Shakan says, this can't be, this is ridiculous, this thing should be able to pull an adequate amount of energy from the gate. Shakan continues that there shouldn't have been any problems in the design, and he's wondering why it's not moving. Bart says, did you mess up? If my father knew I was set up by a jerk like this, he'd turn in his grave. Shakan said, I didn't need this anyway, I'll take you myself. Graf says, do you desire the power? Shakan says, who is that? Bart says, him again. Faye says, how'd he get in here? Graf says, I'm Graf, the seeker of power. Doth thou desire the power? Shakan says, what kind of power? I have the power of the gate, as long as I get this machine to work. Graf says, your powers are superficial. The tools you produced with your immature intellect, now do you think you can win? Shakan says, why are you saying this power is superficial? Graf says, the meager efforts of you land dwellers are insignificant next to the true and only power. He says, I shall endow you with my true power. Graf says, my fist is the divine breath. Blossom, O fallen seed, and dry upon thy hidden powers. Graf continues, grant unto thee the power of the glorious Mother of Destruction. And the battle ensues. Shakan has reattached himself to the gate and is supposedly getting stuff out of it. And we are gonna shoot A-rods at this thing and see how much... Oh wow, 7k. Yeah, that's super useful. Shakan cannot attack me because he's attached to the gate, which is kind of hilarious. What a dumbass. Wow, that ether doubler is just nasty. Ellie takes Shakan's full HP in 3 hits, basically. Shakan says, how can this be? Bart says, Shakan, 12 years ago, if you weren't so hungry for power, Margie would still have her family, and she wouldn't have to live out in the desert. Shakan says, what would you know, you throne-born brat? Bart says, throne, you can have it. A king's gotta carry the heaviest responsibilities of all. It's a tough job. Something you'd never understand. Shakan screams. Faye says the gate's on fire. Ellie says we need to get out of here. Alright, so I guess we're fleeing the scene. The gate then explodes underground. Bart says, Faye, if anything, I'm your friend, right? Sig, you won't change no matter what I do, will you? Mason says, what's the matter, young master? Bart says, I guess I have to do what I was asked. Bart says, my good people of Ava, this is Bartholomew Fatima, the 19th king of Ava, son of Edbart Fatima IV, the 18th king of Ava. First, one must apologize for the trouble caused by one's unavoidably lengthy absence from the palace. One especially wants to give one's condolences to those who lost family in the war with Kislev. One will immediately cause a truce with Kislev and begin reparations to victims of both countries. All citizens drafted as soldiers will be able to return home. Let us work together towards the rebuilding of Ava. Bart says, one also has another final but important message, a declaration from the will of Edbart IV, who wished only for peace for this kingdom Ava. I, Bartholomew Fatima, the 19th king, do hereby declare from this day forward, I shall abandon the monarchy and create the Republic of Ava. Sigurd says, young master. Mason says, what in Ava are you doing? Bart says, this is my father's wish. I'm very sorry. You've worked hard for many years to restore me to this throne, and now I'm no longer in line to be king, nor anything else for that matter. The two of you are free to go. Mason says, what are you saying? Sigurd says, unbelievable. Mason says, Master Sigurd. Sigurd says, can't you hear the crowd outside? They've chosen you as their king. You're going to be very busy. Bart says, Sig. Sigurd says, won't you need some assistance? Bart says, well, here goes nothing. It appears it is now nighttime. Mason is talking with Bart. He says, young master, you still haven't taken a rest yet? Bart says, Mason, there's one thing I want to ask you. Mason says, what is it? Bart says, where was Sigurd born? Mason says, young master. Bart says, he has blue eyes. It's the Fatima Jasper. Mason says, well, it was long ago, when His Majesty and I were still young. Long before His Majesty knew my young master's mother. His Majesty was in love with a small girl from a small religious sect east of Ava. It was quite different from Nisan and Ethos, but she was very beautiful. Later, she just disappeared. There were rumors of her having a child. Bart said, did father abandon her? Mason says, as far as I know, it's the opposite. His Majesty was abandoned. Bart says, Sig is from Ava's eastern desert. Mason says, indeed. When he was 10, he was assigned to His Majesty as a squire. So apparently he's Bart's half-brother. Sigurd says, young master. Bart says, I can't sleep. Sigurd says, yeah, so much just happened at once. Bart says, Sigurd, what was your mom like? Sigurd says, she died when I was a child. Why do you ask? Bart says, do you have any memories of her? What kind of person was she? Sigurd says, well, she was very kind, but when I was born, it seems the doctor told her she did not have long to live. She lived in constant fear of that. As a result, even if she met someone she liked, her fear of death was her drawback. She worried that she could not be with me to the very end. Bart said, what about your father? Sigurd says, he isn't supposed to know that I was born. However, even for not knowing, he still treated me like a son. Bart says, why didn't you tell him you were his son? Sigurd says, if my mother hid that fact, there had to be a reason. Bart says, there's more to my father's will than what I declared today. I must share my inheritance with my brother. He also says, you must split you and your brother's share with the people. Bart said, that always bugged me up until now. I didn't know what he meant. That's all I wanted to say. Good night. Me oh my. So many truth revelations. Alright. Bart says, thanks to you, Ava has been taken back from Shakan and Gebler. It's basically Faye and company in some kind of conference room. And he says, thank you. Bart continues, now in order to free other lands from Gebler and Solaris, we must destroy the other two gates and bring them down. We've learned from Shakan's notes that the gates form the points of a triangle. One point was the Great Mausoleum. 2 others remain, but we only know where one is. Satan says yes, under Ethos headquarters. However, Billy says it wasn't there when we followed Stone. If it's really there, it must be buried deep beneath the earth. Rico says, how are we going to destroy it then? Choo Choo says, by combining everyone's gear power. Rico says, what are we going to do with everyone's gear? Dig a giant hole? Choo Choo says, what's wrong with that? Everybody's shaking their head, like that pink thing shouldn't even be written into the game. Sigurd says it would take years. Faye says, what if we used Shivat's cannon? Maria says, if that would have worked, we would have already tried it. Satan says, it must be something more powerful than Shivat's cannon. Ellie says, we don't have a Gebler battleship. But they do have Fort Jasper that they just found with that giant gun. Faye says, is there any weapon that powerful on Earth? Satan says, Gebler's battleships and Shivat's cannon are the most powerful ever produced. Bart says, I seem to remember seeing something. Sigurd says, what? Bart says, a weapon with that kind of firepower. Oh boy, these people are slow as balls. Bart says, yeah, I got it. The Jasper. Her gun can take out a mountain. What about that? Bart says, Satan, what? Because he's shaking his head. Satan says, however powerful the Jasper may be, how are we going to aim it at Ethos headquarters? To damage something that deep underground, we'd have to attack it from directly above. But the Jasper gun is a linear weapon. Sigurd says, of course. Rico says, what you're saying is we should just move Fort Jasper on top of Babel. Billy says, now that you mention it, Babel does overlook their headquarters. If we shoot it from there, it might possibly be able to reach that far underground. Sigurd says, how could we move it? Ellie says, it's impossible. Faye says, didn't the control room in Babel control a cannon or something? I think it moved the giant mirror outside. Bart says, Maria, do you know of anything like that? Maria says, I haven't heard anything. Faye says, it might be there, we could check. Bart says, alright. Satan says, wait a moment, a giant mirror and cannon, both from the same ruins? There might be something to this. Bart says, like what? Satan says, I think I've solved the puzzle. Sigurd says, what puzzle? Satan says, the Babel and Jasper are from the same civilization. They're very far more advanced than our own. Do they not seem structurally similar to you? I believe they were both built with gears and a powerful foe in mind. Faye says, yeah, I noticed that, but what's it all mean? Satan says, the people who built that mirror knew about the giant gun at Jasper. Bart says, what are you getting at? Satan says, we can probably assume the mirror was built to reflect the beam shot from the Jasper. Faye says, reflect? Satan says, yes. Rico says, long ago, Babel and Jasper must have been at war. Satan says, not exactly. They were combined to make one weapon. Rico says, what do you mean? Ellie says, those things are so far apart, how could they be one weapon? Satan says, the gates may be far apart, But aren't they still one device? Ellie says, I see what you mean. Billy says, what did they use this weapon for? Citan says, I don't know. Bart says, the point is, how do we use the two weapons at once? Citan says, aim the Jasper gun at the mirror and fire. The mirror will reflect the beam on the gate. Maria says, do you think it'll work? Citan says, theoretically, it would require a few adjustments. Sigurd says, adjusting the mirror is going to be rather difficult and tedious. Citan says, if the two weapons are one, it shouldn't be too difficult. Rico says it sounds dangerous. I think it was meant to reflect shots back at the enemy. If you're wrong, it'll come back and hit you. Citan says, that's why it's most difficult for the gun crew. The mirror must be hit precisely. Citan says, we will need to divide into two teams. One will fire the gun, the other will adjust the angle of the mirror to ensure that the beam hits the Ethos headquarters. Citan says, since this is my idea, I'll take the dangerous part of adjusting the mirror. Sigurd says, alright, Hyuga, we'll let you take care of that. Seems like your type of job. Faye says, I'll go too, he might need help. Ellie says, it might be lonely with just those two, so I'll go as well. Sigurd says, alright, you three take Babel. What about the gun? Billy says, I'll do it, looks like my kind of job. Don't worry, I won't miss, I haven't been using a gun for nothing. Bart says, I better go to the Jasper. Choo Choo says, me too. Oh god. Bart says it's settled. You go with Citan, we'll go with the Jasper. They said, let's go back to the Yggdrasil and get going. Now we've cut to a scene in Solaris with the Gazelle Ministry. The Gazelle Ministry says, allowing contact with Shivat. Not only Shivat, the Ignis defeat, the Thames retreat, and yes, even Elru, you. Useless as always. A failure to begin with. Trash. Ramses says, what did you say? The Ministry says it's the truth. And just what is that attitude? You should show some loyalty. Ramses says, how dare you ridicule me by calling me trash? Damn you. Miang says, calm down, Commander. It's not good for you. You haven't recovered from the last battle. The Ministry continues, it does not matter. The Lambs are probably on their way to destroying the gate, but not this time. They continue, I'd like to see your intrinsic powers. If you aren't the trash we think you are. And then they disappear. Ramses says, Miang, launch the ship, get to him. This time I'll go myself, and I'll bring him down. Miang says, Commander, you can't go out there like that. Calvena says, Commander, request permission to handle the situation. She's one of the elements. She brings the other three with her. Miang says, you all. Dominia says, we'll do our best to meet your expectations. Calvena says, Commander, please, you must get medical attention. Dominia says, to make our ideals a reality. Calvena says, well then, we're off. And apparently we have some foes ready to intercept us. Okie dokie doo. Anywho, I'm gonna see if there's any new stuff in this place. Doesn't appear to be anything good there. Looks like the stuff I have now is better than the stuff I could get. Alrighty. So, I guess we go fly to Babel. Oh yeah, and it's triangle. Oh look, there's Shivat flying. Where the heck is this place? There we go. I guess we just fly right up to the top, which is nice. Faye says, Doc, what should we do? Citan says, look up. That is a reflection mirror. A Fort Jasper beam will be reflected off of that and destroy the gate. Citan says, let us hurry to the control room while our pursuers are still gone. Let's see what we got here. Ellie's still got her ether doubler. And we've got our power magic. This E circuit. Might as well just put both the E circuits on there. Any more power magics? Nope. But that's fine. I have some like new stuff. Light alloy. Armor defense plus 30. A gold plate. Gel damage. Yeah, I don't know if I need any of that. Alright, sounds good to me. The Yggdrasil leaves. Billy says, shall we go as well? And looks like I can switch them out if I want to. I don't particularly care for Choo Choo. She sucks in gear battles. I think Maria's better equipped than Rico for gear battles, so we're gonna go with her, even though she sucks on foot. They're really gonna make me walk around this shithole again? Oh boy. I cannot remember where this place is. Okay, so I'm in the right room. Citan says, I will control the mirror. You guys hold off the enemy. Faye says, is it going to be okay? Citan says, we must do it. Citan says he's counting on them. Faye says, let's go do our part. And Citan's adjusting some stuff. He calls out to Billy and says, Billy, do you read? We're ready. Commence the firing. It appears Dominia has arrived. Faye says, you're Dominia. Wait. What do you suppose they figured out our plan? He said, wait, do you suppose that they figured out our plan? Dominia says, of course. The ancient mobile gun platform floating above Ignis and this reflector at Babel Tower. I know of your plan to use them together to destroy the gate below the Ethos headquarters. Of course I will not let you do it. Calvina says, for the commander's honor and the pride of the elements, you need to be more flexible. Dominia says, here she comes, and we have started a fight. They're really not going to like it when I hit them with those air rods, though. Yep, one hit KO. Bye, bitches. Billy and his team have now infiltrated Fort Jasper. Billy says, let's begin our preparations. Bart says, there's time until the launch. I wonder if everyone else is okay. Maria says that there's gears on the radar. It's Miyang. Nope, never mind. It's Seraphita and Talone. Talone says, you are really serious? You were gonna reflect a laser off a mirror? Pretty stupid. Seraphita says, inverted pull-ups are really tough, but I can do 300. Talone says, angling it for the drop ratio? I don't know. They don't seem to be saying anything relevant. Bart says, here they come. Billy says, we're so close. Bart says, Maria and I will go out there and fend them off. Are you going to be okay, Billy? Billy says, okay. Blah, blah, blah. Talone says, I can't believe you'd think of such a stupid plan. Bart says, you never know until you try. Talone says, keep talking while you can. Dominia and Calvena should have taken over Babel Tower. And they start fighting. Let's see how that D-charge does, maybe. No, I'll just put him in booster mode. Really? Well, let's just use that gravitation cannon. And they are dead. Bart says, shoot, Billy. Billy has shot. Looks like he missed. Billy says, we only get one more shot. Hopefully they get it done next time. Dominia continues to fight with Faye, which is unwise because the Arads are going to destroy them in one hit. Goodbye, bitches. Billy said he missed. Bart says don't worry about it. He says calm down and try again. Maria says those two idiots are back. Alrighty. I'm curious how much damage that does. It does none, so we're gonna not use that then. That doesn't really have a use to it. They're dead a second time. Billy says go and shoots a second time. Talone says lamb's taste. I don't know. Talone says I thought I told you to shut up. More misinterpreted things, I guess. It appears we successfully hit it. Faye says, great, it worked. Dominia says, damn, we're too late. Calvena says, what should we do? Dominia says, we'll continue this later. Let's go. And then Calvena says, Ellie, I didn't want to be your enemy, but since our motives are different, I guess there's no choice. We'll meet again. Citan says there's one gate left. Bart says, the problem is the location. Faye reminds them that Queen Zephyr said there's only 3 of them on Earth and 1 in Solaris. Sigurd says, according to Shakan's report, Each gate is placed in a triangle. Citan says, let's look at the map. This shows the area before the gates were placed. Citan says, this is what the land looks like on the other side of the invisible barrier. The gate should be set up somewhere here on this map. First, the Ignis gate is here. Ethos HQ is there. So they're saying logically it could be here or here. Ellie says north or south. We have even guesses of chancing. We have even chances of guessing which. Bart says, what if we try both ways? Isn't that all it takes? Sigurd says, that'd be difficult. I doubt they expected the second one to be destroyed, so I'm sure they'll be more serious next time. We have to plan it carefully and quickly. Citan says, in any case, we're not going to be able to avoid Gebler's interference. Faye says, Doc and Ellie, where exactly is Solaris located? Ellie says, there's only a map of Solaris in Solaris. I didn't even know the area of this land until I arrived here. Faye says, even in Gebler? Ellie says the relations with Earth are only revealed to commanders. Bart says if that's the case, even Billy's father may not know it. Sigurd says Josiah left there in the middle of it. Citan says Sigurd and I were smugglers and did not have the time to look out the window. On top of that, when going through the gate from Solaris, we transferred to other places by using the environmental plane between each gate. When we made a contract with Kislev... No, he says, remember when we made contact with the Kislev gate in the Goliath? The same thing happens and we lose all sense of where we were before. Faye says, even if the gate divides the other space, can't you recognize its topography, like mountains, jungles, etc.? Ellie says, I don't think there were mountains, more like we were surrounded by the ocean. Bart says, ocean? Then it can't be north. This is the pole, it's all covered with snow. Faye says, we might as well check out the one to the south due to that information, since that one's in the middle of the ocean. He says if the gates are placed on the highest point in the north, the center will be the continent, hence it coincides with Ellie's story. Citan says you may be right. Sigurd says, wait a minute, there shouldn't be any facilities over the ocean. Ellie says, maybe underwater? Sigurd says, but the whole area around here is deep. If it exists, it must be very deep down. Faye says the Yggdrasil is a submarine, right? What's the problem? Bart says, you're crazy. It's a submarine, but not a bathyscaphe. I would assume... Yeah, it's not made for deep-sea exploration. Water pressure would crush us instantaneously. Faye says we have a problem. Citan says we may be able to use bathyscapes or gears used by salvagers. Bart says salvager, that's it. The captain of the Thames must have tons of them. He owes us from last time. Let's go to the Thames. Citan says it may be our best choice for now. Shall we go? Alright. So now we are having another conversation at the Gazelle Ministry in Solaris. They are saying there's only one surface gate left. They are upset that Ramses could not defend it. They wonder what the purpose of his existence is. They say that he's trash and they can't really expect much from him. However, it must not be aligned before Animus data is retrieved. Gazelle Ministry says you are right. There's a higher probability of not getting the proper type, as it was in the past. We can't allow the lambs to go free yet. Krelian says who cares about the gate? The Ministry says Krelian. This can't be. The panic has spread to Eternach. Krelian says those fools we call citizens are easily manipulated by the Emperor's words alone. The Ministry says, you think Cain will be receptive? His body's at the limit. He can't hold out much longer. Krellian says, as usual, a clone may be used. Those fools won't know the difference, and even if the barrier fails, it still will not be like the disaster before. Anyhow, if I recall, there's some very intriguing data on that memory cube. The Gazelle Ministry says, what information is that? Krellian says, the mother. The Ministry says, the mother? Krellian says, indeed, it's probable that the mother exists among the lambs. The Ministry says, are you telling us our mother is somewhere else? Why didn't we notice that sooner? Krellian says, the sign of the mother. Her persona only appears after she reaches a certain age. He continues, there's a high probability that she transmigrated into the antitype. And the Ministry says, the antitype, that woman from Nissan. Krellian says, here, I would like to use that nanotechnology product, Emeralda. The Ministry says, what you retrieved from the Thames? Why? Krellian says, to be sure, as Mother says, that nanomachine colony, that artificial organism, was a creation between the contact and the antitype 4,000 years ago. The Ministry says, the Mother's memory. Krellian says, yes, that's it. We can probably attain some kind of reaction. But even if we obtain no reaction, and if Emeralda is destroyed, I've already gathered all the data I need. Any loss of it will have no consequence to the plan. Whew, there's a lot to unpack with that series of sentences. Alright, I think this is a good place to stop. Anyway, Emeralda's the green girl that we found at that Ethos dig site. The antitype is Ellie. She's the reincarnation of Sophia. The other guy they're talking about obviously is Faye. Faye and Ellie's child from 4,000 years ago is that nanomachine colony Emeralda, and Krellian has extracted all the data out of it, meaning all these memories of this advanced civilization from 4,000 years ago. So, kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna stop here.